The only thing worse than a project you're working on getting totally shelved is working on a project that is stuck in development limbo, otherwise known as Vaporware. And that's what we're counting down today. Here are 20 cases of Vaporware. Some of these games are guaranteed to release, some of them you can play now, others are nothing more than an educated wish. As long as they have been officially announced but not officially cancelled, they qualify for this video. Sorry, no Vaporwave video this time, but be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. And with that out of the way, let's begin the list. Riot needs to be praised for keeping the toxic neckbeards and crotch dusters confined to the league. They are doing SCP levels of containment there. At EVO 2019, Riot announced a fighting game spin-off for League of Legends with the codename Project L. It looked rough around the edges, obviously it was an alpha build, but the potential for a solid fighter was there. I want to say that Project L was announced earlier than 2019, but I couldn't verify that info. News for Project L was sporadic following its announcement. From what I understand, there was a lot of trial and error on the gameplay, and the team had a lot of talent come and go like an expressway pink salon. Long production cycles might be an issue with League-related projects. Arcane took around 6 years to make. Admittedly, not all that time was working on the project. There was a lot of time waiting for approvals from Riot, so that might have been an issue with Project L as well. In February 2024, Project L came back with vengeance with a graphic overhaul and a new name, 2XKO. That might be the worst rename ever. It sounds like a 4 Loko that has less than half the calories of a normal 4 Loko. I didn't know they had 660 calories. I played 2XKO, I am sorry, I'm not getting over that name, at EVO Japan 2024, and I thought it was pretty fun. At the time of making this video, there's a closed beta slated to release for people to try, so I do expect this title to hit its 2025 release. Hollow Knight was one of those indie games that hit damn hard. It's a fun Metroidvania and Souls-like game that puts up one hell of a fight. A sequel was announced in February 2019 called Silksong. News then went quiet. In 2022 there was a new trailer, and just as fast as news came out, we went back to ghosting. Finding anything about Silksong is hard. All roads lead to some rumors that have since been debunked. From what I can gather, there's around 3 people working at Team Cherry. That includes making Silksong and updating the social medias, which haven't been updated that much. A small team plus a global pandemic must mean that development is taking a hot minute. It's just weird to have a highly anticipated sequel like that and be quiet on it unless there's some serious behind the scenes issues that we don't know about. A sequel to the bartending visual novel Valhalla, announced in 2018, looked to evolve the gameplay with better graphics that were inspired by Saturn and PlayStation titles such as Sakura Wars or Tokimeki Memorial. Nirvana was slated for a 2020 release, but development troubles stopped that from happening. The dev team was just one guy, Fernando Damas, and he was not willing to let go of his role on the game despite going through some stuff IRL. Creative differences also arose between Damas and the creative team. All of this led to burnout. As of 2023, Nirvana is still in the oven, but updates are scarce. There's no release date set in stone. It's better that they take their time with the game and make sure it's good rather than shove something out and have it be underwhelming. Sukeban Games is now working on a new game, 45 Parabellum Bloodhound, which is a spiritual successor to Parasite Eve. So at least there will be something to play until Nirvana releases. And we might as well have a drink to pass the time. Anybody care for a strong zero?
What was that? It's nothing. Carry on.
Full disclosure, I am not a fan of Bethesda games. Gameplay-wise, I find them uninteresting and buggy as hell. So hearing the news of a new Elder Scrolls game announced in 2018 was met with an from me. That said, the Fallout show was pretty darn good. Elder Scrolls 6 hasn't seen many updates since announcement, mostly thanks to Bethesda's parent company ZeniMax getting bought out by Microsoft, and Bethesda putting their time and effort into Starfield, a game that I've never played and I'm never going to. Starfield was made on a new engine, the Creation Engine 2, and that engine is being used for Elder Scrolls 6. That's a good thing, as the engine Bethesda used for Skyrim job was pretty outdated and definitely would not be able to handle a new game like a new Elder Scrolls. With Starfield released, I expect that everybody at Bethesda is working on Elder Scrolls 6 now. Maybe they'll take the time and actually polish the game so it isn't a glitch fest like Skyrim.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
The Intellivision Amico is a console, not a game, but it took many games to Limbo with it, such as Cornhole. Nah, Cornhole! The Amico is the pet project behind game composer and #1 Kirby hater Tommy Tallarico. He bought a major stake in Intellivision, and in May 2018 he announced the plan to relaunch the brand as a family-friendly system, a system for the non-gamer, ignoring the fact that these things exist but continue. This new system, the Intellivision Amico, was going to be that system and had a release date of October 2020. There was going to be only kid-friendly games on it, and there was going to be a unique controller. The Intellivision's controller, while ambitious for the time, is kinda terrible.
Why a numeric keypad? This is a video game controller, not a phone! Then there's 2 little buttons on each side, which are usually the fire buttons. It's awkward to handle. And rather than a joystick or a control pad of some kind, you get this weird disc. It also acts as a button, so in total, that's 17 buttons. And for games this complex, you really need that many.
The Amico had an updated controller with a touchscreen, disc, and some side buttons. As 2018 and 19 rolled on, Tommy did his best to keep Amico hype alive. It had a diverse lineup of games and some serious talent behind the system. The general consensus among retro gaming YouTubers was that the Amico had potential, but it didn't have brand recognition or could do anything that the Switch or a tablet couldn't do. And of course, there were extreme fans and critics. Pre-orders went up in April 2020, with the VIP system selling out. The Amico failed to meet its October 2020 release, allegedly owing to supply chain issues due to the pandemic. The system kept getting delayed throughout 2021. Any attempts from Tommy to keep the hype alive was met with increasing skepticism. Not helping is that throughout the years, Tommy would take time from his day to address even the slightest criticism online. And I'm talking about channels that are smaller than mine. While Tommy was doing damage control, there was an unseen war on YouTube between a bunch of old dudes either defending Tommy or criticizing him, while talking smack at the other side without a single shred of self-awareness. I can see the hairlines retreating out of embarrassment. Most infamously, Smash JT went from a critic on the Amico to practically deep-throating Tommy, and I'm talking going until it's dry, complete with walking 2 fingers up Brown Street. After giving you that terrible mental image, he went back to hating the guy like a really bad yaoi. All this came to a head in February 2022, when Tommy stepped down from CEO of Intellivision, but was still involved with the company. Then H-Bomber dropped the Roblox oof video exposing Tommy as a fraud. It was clear throughout 2022 and 2023 that the money was running dry. Atari SA bought the Intellivision and their assets, except for Amico. The Amico site is still up and you can pre-order the system. That wood grain system is class. And for $0, what a deal! At this point, Tommy's reputation is in the dirt, and even if the Amico releases, no one's gonna care. Just cut your losses and move on. I know I'm missing a lot of the finer points of the Amico debacle, because that's what it was, a true debacle. But there's 2 things about the Amico in hindsight. For one, everybody who was involved in that saga or debacle, whatever you want to call it, has just moved on in life. And 2, the thing was dead on arrival because guess what? This thing exists and does everything the Amico could do, but better and with more options. And if you buy your kid an Amico over, say, a Switch or an iPad, guess what? They were going to get bullied in school. But if you do want to really deep dive into the Amico saga, this video from Slopes did a great job about that. So shouts to him, and check that video out after this one is done, assuming you have 4 hours to spare. Metroid fans had a long period of time where they did not know what happiness was. Metroid Other M put the series on the back burner, and 2016's Federation Force was the wrong game at the wrong time, and it wasn't anything to write home about either. However, at E3 2017, Nintendo showed a teaser for Metroid Prime 4. There wasn't much to show besides the teaser, but that and Metroid Samus Returns was a sign that Metroid is back, baby! 2017 and 18 rolled by with nothing to show for Metroid Prime 4. In early 2019, a video from Shinya Takahashi released to say that Prime 4 was going to restart development underneath Retro Studios. The rumors are that Namco Bandai Singapore was making Prime 4, and their build of the game wasn't living up to Nintendo's standards. Nintendo opted to cut their losses and just restart development instead of releasing a game of subpar quality. Retro Studios had to restart development from scratch, and that got complicated with the pandemic. Thankfully, we got some Metroid love to hold us over, including the release of fellow Vaporware game, Metroid Dread. Then in June 2024, Nintendo finally revealed news about Prime 4, giving it the name Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and it's slated for a 2025 release. So if I waited a year to make this video, Prime 4 would not have been on here, but it isn't out yet, so I want to talk about it. Plus, the early build of Prime 4 has lost media, so that's kinda cool. Well, I can kiss monetization on this video goodbye. Senran Kagura 7 was teased at the end of 2017's Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash. The Senran Kagura games kept getting better and better. Burst Renewal might be one of the best hack-and-slash games out there. Unfortunately, the series was facing constant issues with Sony's increasing censorship policies. Violent deaths in The Last of Us Part 2? A-okay. Some big ol' anime boobs? Whoa man. Whoa. You gotta cut that out. Sony's censorship led the series creator, Kenichiro Takaki, to leave Marvelous in 2019. Marvelous should have gone all in on the Switch the moment that Nintendo showed Pyro's fat tits to God in the entire world. Instead, the Switch got some whack spin-off games that I have played on this channel. Seriously, full price for a pinball game that only has 2 tables? Marvelous hasn't totally abandoned the series yet. As I was writing the script, there's an official ASMR video featuring Yumi on Twitter.
本当、とってもいい湯加減ですね。
Takaki has said that he would like to return to the series at some point, and maybe that's the only reason why 7 hasn't been totally iced just yet. Or maybe all hands will be on deck after the release of Daemon X Machina 2. I wonder how flummoxed Scott the Boss was when he heard that Switch title is getting a sequel before other Switch games. Daemon X Machina is awesome, by the way. I feel like some of you cringed when you got to this section or were blissfully unaware of this game's existence. And if you are watching this video on your Twitch stream, sorry. Yandere Simulator is a game where you play as a crazy stalker girl who has to eliminate the competition from getting her man. Essentially, Hitman crossed with Future Diary. It sounded like there's potential for a fun game there. The game is a one-man project, a one Alex Mahan, also known as Yandere Dev, with volunteers helping him out from time to time. Most people know about how much of a train wreck Yandere Dev is as a person. I watched hours of videos that detailed how incompetent he is at game development. To make a long story short, Yandere Sim is an ambitious project that would take a good-sized team to make. However, Alex isn't willing to reduce the scope of the game or expand the development team. He's also not that good at managing his time, and he might not be a good person either. That said, there are still supporters of the game, as the Patreon is sitting around $1,500 a month, and to his credit, the website is still getting regular updates. The common theory is that Alex is intentionally dragging out development to keep his Patreon supporters, ignoring the fact that if he just made and sold a complete game, people would buy it, but that would make too much sense. With all of this drama around Yandere Dev, no one is willing to work with him, and most think it's a matter of not if, but when Yandere Sim is cancelled. This concept does have potential, and I think someone should make their own Yandere game just to show up Alex. Someone did try that with a Yandere Sim fan game, Lovesick, but that ended up dying in development hell for reasons. Maybe this whole idea is cursed. A mysterious trademark from Nintendo that was some kind of health program. Based on sketches, it looked like it would have been about your daily health. It's been rumored that the Wii Vitality sensor was a part of this project, but that ended up being cancelled due to it not working for most people. Nintendo has been mum on the quality of life program. My guess is the Switch was such a huge success that they put more effort into that than this. That said, Nintendo has made some fitness games for the Switch, so I imagine some ideas from the quality of life program bled into those titles. That's just theory on my end, though. Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun are 2 of the greatest games of all time. And no, you cannot have my GameCube copy of Ikaruga. A third game in this sort of series was announced by Hiroshi Yuichi as a PlayStation 4 exclusive in 2014. I assume that Yuichi doesn't have much help making the game, as progress has been slow. There's been concept art and even an EP for Ubutsuna, but that's it. Health issues and Yuichi's work at M2 have delayed creation. He'll post something every now and again on his blog about it, but nothing substantial. At the very least, Yuichi posted pictures of his lizard.
Did you want to show me anything?
Alright, yeah, what about that?
I mean, it's kind of cool, but it doesn't make me feel any better, though.
Yeah, no, I didn't think so.
Not to be confused with the After the Burial album, Dig Deep. Deep Down was a planned action RPG from Capcom, being produced by Kazunori Sugiura and Yoshinori Ono. The setting was interesting, with it taking place between the future and the past. There was a trailer in 2013, and according to Wikipedia, there was a Japanese beta test in 2015. Deep Down kept having more ideas added to it. Compounding the issue was that Yoshinori Ono was busy with another major project at Capcom at the time. Ono would get asked about Deep Down from time to time, saying that it is still in the oven. Ono left Capcom in 2020, leaving Deep Down's fate unknown. Capcom hasn't said anything about it in years, so there's a good chance that the game is shelved. Not helping is titles like Monster Hunter and Dragon's Dogma covering almost the same ground as Deep Down, making the title redundant. While I'm here, I have been playing Dragon's Dogma 2, and I am trying really hard to like this game. Yeah, the game is bigger than the first title, but that just exacerbates the issues the first title had on top of adding new ones. Hey Capcom, there's 3 things that every open world action game has. A lock-on feature, easy fast travel, and a universal dodge mechanic. Also, it really is not necessary to get attacked by harpies whenever I go to the store. Maybe they'll figure those features out for Deep Down. When you get a roguelike RPG crossed with cats, you get Mugenics. Originally, it was going to be made by Team Meat, but it ended up getting cancelled in 2016. Supposedly, the game was taking forever to make due to feature creep. Noticing a pattern here. Since then, Edmund McMillan and Tyler Glale got the rights to the game and have been making it as a 2-man team. McMillan at least wanted to do different things and left Team Meat. Mugenics went under a total overhaul with the two, going to a turn-based tactical game with breeding mechanics. It sounds like there's a lot of things going on in this game, and it being made by 2 dudes means that development is taking its time. Updates regularly happen, so there's a good chance Mugenics hits that 2025 release date. Classic survival shooter Stalker was a success, and led to some expansions and a full sequel titled Heart of Chernobyl. That's not a typo. Announced in 2010, it has not had an easy time getting made. The game was originally cancelled in 2012 thanks to rights issues and financial difficulties at GSC. A Kickstarter was launched in June 2014 by former GSC employee Eugene Kim with a new company, Vostok Games. They were funding a Stalker spiritual successor called Ariel, but the Kickstarter was suspended for guideline violations. They tried a more ambitious funding project for a Stalker game called Apocalypse, but I don't think they met their $600,000 goal. GSC would reform in December 2014 and announced Stalker 2 is back on the table in 2019. Development has been slow thanks to an engine change and constant cyber attacks on GSC. If that wasn't enough, real-world events called GSC to relocate into the Czech Republic. It was supposed to release in September 2024, but due to bug issues, it's been delayed to November of 2024. Here's to you, GSC. Hopefully this game comes out and crushes. You dudes deserve a happy ending. In space, no one can hear you spend money on a crowd-funded game. Star Citizen is an upcoming MMO space RPG like EVE Online or Elite Dangerous, being made by Cloud Imperium Games. The scope of the project is, for lack of a better term, ambitious. A multiplayer and expanding persistent universe to play with others, and a single-player campaign where you play as a pilot. Since no publisher was interested in the idea, the game has been crowdfunded since 2012, and as of the making of this video, it's not done. Development has taken so long that Forbes wrote an investigative piece on Star Citizen to see what's going on. The game is being developed, yes, but management might not be that good. Instead of reining in some ideas to make development easier, they are expanding the scope of the game. That's a common issue I hear in tech. Management wants to add in features to a product that doesn't have a foundation. You have to have a house first before you pick the curtains. According to LinkedIn, there's around 800 employees at Cloud Imperium Games. Too many cooks spoil the soup, so maybe that's what's going on with Star Citizen. Much like Yandere Simulator, there's a theory that the developers are intentionally dragging out development to keep that sweet crowd-funded cash flowing in. That said, updates regularly happen, and there seems to be an active community around Citizen. An unironic community, I mean. I personally would not call Star Citizen a scam, it's just a project that badly needs a manager. I made a video about this back in 2023, so I won't be long here. Man, I have lost a lot of weight since I made that video. Tekken Cross Street Fighter was announced alongside Street Fighter Cross Tekken in 2010. Cross Tekken released in 2012 to a mixed reception thanks to its gameplay and bad DLC practices. Because of the controversy, Cross Street Fighter has been stuck in limbo. It was rumored that the game was cancelled, but Katsuhiro Harada said that it was halted around 30% completion. My thoughts are between the drama of Street Fighter Cross Tekken and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Tekken 7 and 8 releasing to strong sales, and the difficulty of trying to find a happy medium between Street Fighter and Tekken led to the game being trapped in limbo. That said, Akuma was in Tekken 7, and Capcom has been open to their Versus series again. Also saying that, with Namco going all in on Tekken 8 and Capcom with Street Fighter 6, And now with the high chance of a Marvel vs. Capcom 4 or Capcom vs. SNK 3 happening, there's just no demand for a Tekken Cross Street Fighter as of 2024. Ono did troll Harada at EVO 2023, saying that Harada still had some homework. My only theory to why Tekken Cross Street Fighter has been cancelled is that it's a contractually obligated thing. Like if Namco formally cancels the project, then they would owe Capcom some money. Pure speculation on my end. Watch as Ryu or Luke join Tekken 8 as DLC, or even better, Kazuya and Reina join Street Fighter 6. Reina vs. Juri is a battle that should definitely happen. Sometimes you have an idea that's just too ahead of the curve. That's the story of Miegakure. It's a puzzle game that takes advantage of the fourth dimension. I'm not really sure what to make of the trailers. It could be a fun game. I do like puzzle games after all. I finally cleared 3,000 points in Suika game, by the way. Miegakure could be the Fez sequel that we are never getting. This title is a one-man project from a one Mark Tin Bosch. Due to the sheer complication of the project means that Mark is fighting an uphill battle. The last update on his blog was in 2023, so that's worrying. If Mark gets Miegakure to work, he should get a prize. Or at least 3 free blowjobs from the local soapland, for essentially turning water into wine. I would prefer if he turned water into funk. I feel like that title is confusing, but let me explain what's happening here. This was an indie game slated for WiiWare and DS from developer Luke Bernard. Bernard is from the UK and is Jewish and likes to make games that teach about WW2. That's good, it is important to learn about the atrocities that happened during that time. So what's the game? Imagination is the Only Escape was a game where you play as a boy using his imagination to escape the realities of the Holocaust. Yeah, I really want to play a game that deals with that. That sounds like one of those fan theories that you saw in the 2000s. I was like, oh, it's all just a dream kind of fan theory. And all those fan theories are awful. For understandable reasons, Nintendo of America wasn't willing to publish the game on their systems, though the European branch was okay with the game. It reminds me of the lost movie The Day the Clown Cried, which dealt with a clown entertaining kids during that period. Harry Shearer saw that movie and said this about it. Yeah. Anyway, back to Imagination. It went to Indiegogo to fund the game in 2013 and 2021. It didn't get funded. It hasn't been officially cancelled, but I can't imagine there's much of a market for a colorful looking game set in a horrible time in history meant for kids to play. Not saying that it would have been a bad game, I'm just saying that the premise alone is a turnoff for most players. It's been so long since he tried to fund the game, I can't imagine Bernard going out of his way to finish the game. That said, he does have another game called The Light in the Darkness, which is free to play on Steam and PlayStation, which covers similar ground. So you can check that out if you want a WW2 game that vaguely looks like Inspector Gadget. I have a feeling I might get canceled for this segment, so cheers everybody, it's been real, and Bernard, if you see this clip, no hard feelings. Fan games are difficult to make. You're spending your free time making something that you can't get money off of, and there's always the risk of a C&D getting jammed right in the stink. Take the case of Oddity. Originally, it was Mother 4. Unlike titles like Undertale or Omori that were inspired by Earthbound, Mother 4 was just that. The Mother game that Shigesato Itoi and Nintendo aren't willing to make. It has the art and writing down frighteningly well. It has been worked on and off since 2008. Due to the ambition of the project, there were several changes in engine and developers. And this being a fan game, no one could get paid for their work. And of course, they had the fear that Nintendo could activate the hand of God and erase the project whenever they wanted was in the back of everybody's mind. Mother 4 missed its 2014 and 15 release dates. In a Reddit AMA in 2017, it was revealed that Mother 4 would continue on as an original IP, totally removed from the Mother or Earthbound branding. Smart move, though some who worked on Mother 4 weren't happy with the change, with one former developer leaking a bunch of admittedly dated story details on the game to 4chan. A trailer released for the rebrand, now Oddity, released in 2020 saying that the game would release when it's ready. There are unverified claims that Oddity has been shelved. While no one has said the game is cancelled, I can't imagine it coming out at all. It's a fan game that has the expectation that it's going to be the fourth Mother game made by hobbyists who are doing it for the art. I feel like if they hit Kickstarter when the rebrand happened, that would have helped the game get made, but hindsight is 2020. What do you think will happen first, an official English version of Mother 3 or Oddity releasing? Earthworm Jim is peak 90s media. Seriously, watch the cartoon, it is insane.
I told you to watch your step, whoopee cushion man!
The series went to the bin after the terrible Nintendo 64 game, but there was always a bit of nostalgia for the series. A PSP game was planned at one point, but that got officially cancelled in 2007. Interplay never gave up on the series, and formally announced Earthworm Jim 4 on April 22, 2008. News was slow as Interplay was experiencing financial issues, they couldn't keep a full dev team, and rights issues with Jimmy hit. Despite that, Jim 4 was never officially cancelled, but any work done on it was nothing more than brainstorming. In May 2019, Tommy Tallarico announced that Earthworm Jim 4 was going to be exclusive to the Amico. And hey, we got some new art of Jim running, so there's hope. And that hope was quickly dashed. In the slow train wreck that was the Amico, Earthworm Jim 4 was on that train. People following the Amico story believe that Jim 4 was nothing but wishful thinking for a killer app for the system, and nothing was made for it other than that sprite. The game isn't officially cancelled. I'm assuming it's being kept alive in the vain hope that the Amico actually releases. Spoiler alert, the Amico ain't releasing anytime soon. I have no idea who, or even if anyone is attached to Earthworm Jim 4. Even if it does get made, it certainly won't remain an Amico exclusive for long. Creator Doug Tennapal being a right-winger is also a turnoff for anyone to work on a new game. Let's just leave Jim in the 90s, I think he's happier there. Anyway, here's some honorable mentions. Move over Duke Nukem Forever, there's a new champion of development hell. The delightful Beyond Good and Evil was a solid title, but sadly didn't sell all that well. Being launched at a crowded time in 2003 did not do it favors. It got to the point where they were giving away free copies with cheese. Seriously. Despite that, Michael Ansel wanted to make a sequel. In May 2008, a trailer was shown. Ansel confirmed that production started as early as October 2006, technically making it the oldest game on this list.
The best kind of correct.
Spoiler alert, Beyond Good and Evil ended on a massive cliffhanger. The trailer looked to be picking up the story of Jade and Paige. For a 2008 trailer, it looks pretty good still, ignoring Paige's Craigasm face. After that trailer, news of Beyond Good and Evil 2 dried up, the only news being conflicting reports between Ansel and Ubisoft on the state of the game. Whatever happened, Ansel and his team at Ubi opted to work on Rayman Legends and eventually Origins. Great games, but Origins did not sell that well, leading to Rayman as a whole being put in the bin other than the odd cameo here or there. Ansel's attention was split between Beyond Good and Evil 2 and Wild, something that drew ire from those working under him at Ubisoft. The punchline is Wild got shelved. Despite that, Beyond Good and Evil 2 was still something Ansel wanted to do, but Ubisoft wasn't willing to commit to a full game. But they didn't want to cancel it. It should be noted that there was an HD release of Beyond Good and Evil for PS3 and 360 in 2011. That's actually how I played the game originally. I think Ubi was doing that thing where they would use sales of the HD port to gauge interest in a new game. Apparently it sold well, but it was too late for Ubisoft to care. And that's where the trail ended for Beyond Good and Evil 2 for the time being. To the surprise of everyone, Beyond Good and Evil 2 appeared at E3 2017 as a prequel with a new protagonist. This gave everyone hope that it's finally being realized after all this time. But with it being a prequel, it left everyone wondering if that cliffhanger from the first title was ever going to be resolved. Despite the cautious hype around the game, Ubisoft quickly went quiet on the title. Around that time, Vivendi was looking to buy out Ubisoft, and as a desperation move, they showed a trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2 to get people, and by people I mean shareholders, to stay on Ubi's side. After the threat of a buyout passed, Ubi lost interest in the project. Any attempt to get a full game in production was met with a
Sorry, but I refuse.
Ubi's output throughout the PS4 and Xbox One era was basically a handful of franchises that are all live service garbage. Ubi never saw Beyond Good and Evil as a viable franchise, and thus it went back into limbo. In 2020, Michael Ansel retired from Ubisoft and the game industry as a whole. Quickly after, news of Ubisoft being not a good place to work dropped. Ansel was the man behind some classics, but a good manager or person he is not. With Two's creative director out of the company, no one at Ubisoft was willing to step up to the plate as director. They did find a new director, Emile Morel, Sadly, he passed away in July of 2023, once again putting doubt that the game will ever see release. As of 2024, the game is still confirmed to be in the works, but in a complicated state. Between Ubisoft messing with games, an inability to keep a creative staff, a toxic work environment, and the world slowly heading towards oblivion must mean development is a little difficult. The only reason why it has been cancelled outright is that Ubi thinks that shelving it would be a sign of weakness. Take the case of another Ubisoft game, Skull and Bones. It left development after an 8-year cycle. That game was scarred by poor management and no one having a direction for the ship, so to speak. And they couldn't just cancel it due to agreements with the Singaporean government. When Skull and Bones released, it was more fun to watch the ship sink than to actually play the game. Beyond Good and Evil 2 will follow the same fate unless there's a huge overhaul within Ubisoft or someone like Nintendo decides to fund it. Ubisoft, Eves, bros, just cancel the project. It's been 15 years. There's no way this game is going to live up to the hype. And even if it does come out, it's just going to be filled with all the crap that makes up modern Ubisoft games. At the very least, Beyond Good and Evil got ported to modern systems, so you can enjoy a fun game that know the pain of the story never being fully resolved. Oh, by the way, Ubi, I am not sending it for everyone's favorite headache, Ubisoft Connect, for a single-player game from 2003. That said, the game does hold up after all these years. A surprise release might mean a sign of things to come, or maybe they are working on that Netflix movie that no one's gonna watch. When I first moved to Tokyo, I used to mix these two things together, and man, in hindsight, what was I thinking? So there's a look at 20 games that are stuck in development. Some of these games are guaranteed to come out, some of these are nothing more than an educated wish at this point. But if they do come out, that'll be content for that day, and well, we can just laugh at this video in a few years, hopefully. But I think that does it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you watched the video, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. Leave a comment. Of all the games in this video, which game do you want to play next? Let me know down there in the comments. Be sure to hit me up on all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, @ZMings, and with that, I will see you in the next video. Everybody, take care.